Now, how long are we supposed to let that music play there, Scott?
As long as we want.
Cool.
Or as little. That was trippy because that was actually a recording, not us live.
Let's talk to Kristen about that because I'm going to bring that down. And I was just about to come in, and then I hear my own voice. It'll say, "Wait a second, I'm not speaking there."
I sound very lovely, but that's not me talking right now.
And I was going to say, when you hear that music, you should know who's on next, right? Who's on first? Who's on second?
No. Who's on first?
Okay, right. What's on second?
What's on second?
I don't know who's on third.
I don't know either.
Anyway,
welcome to Prepper Talk Radio.
Yeah. This is Shane and Scott here on Prepper Talk Radio. I'll bring you down here a little bit there, Scott.
Thank you very much.
And we are, again, happy to be here in the studio after being at PrepperCon last week, which I want to say I thoroughly enjoyed.
Dude, my voice at the end of Friday, I was beat. I spent 4 hours on the radio, 4 hours and 20 minutes straight on the radio. Plus, I talked to everybody, like all the vendors. Now, the good thing about PrepperCon this year was I wasn't working it, and it was phenomenal to enjoy.
Yeah.
The bad thing was it was a lot smaller than the year before.
Well, that's why you and I are there, so we can talk to others. I mean, that's really why I'm there is yes, I bought some cool stuff. And we're going to talk about some of the things we really liked about PrepperCon, some of the exhibitors, the vendors, whatever you want to call them, and some of my favorites, some of your favorites. And but, you know, I'm really there to rub shoulders.
Yep.
And to get to know new people and make new connections. I mean, that's really what it's about for me.
Well, then, and so that's what we're going to do this first segment. Second segment, third segment, we're going to derail the train, so to speak. We want to talk about why you don't prep.
Yes.
All the excuses, all the crap you tell people that you think makes you justified to not prep. We're going to talk about that. And and you'll be able to, for those of you who do prep, you'll be able to go, yeah, my neighbor says that. Yeah, my husband or wife says that. Or yeah, my brother says that. And so it'll be a fun discussion.
A good friend once told me that excuses are a sign of a weak mind.
Oh.
And I never forgot that. So I always think twice before I blurt out some kind of excuse or reason or something. I'm like, okay. And so that's what we're going to kind of talk about in that segment. Whether we get to it the second or the third segment, we'll see how this goes. Because we just kind of we just kind of wing it.
We fumble through the funness of the excitement of what we do.
Fumbling can be fun sometimes.
So, okay, best thing that you experienced at PrepperCon. Ready? Go.
Me? That's easy. I mean, that's, for me, the best part for me, or I would say the best booth. Is that kind of what you're hinting for?
No, just your takeaway. What was the best thing that you experienced or did or saw or whatever? It's hard because there's some good stuff. There's a lot of...
Well, I think number one is meeting some new people, rubbing shoulders with old friends who are like Cash,
Cash Valley Prepper, for those who don't
Eric
follow.
Betcher, Michael Hawk. We've met him before, but we got to spend a little more time with him. I know you spent some time with Matt Graham.
Yep.
I did not get to meet Matt. I
got to sit and watch him for about 15 minutes of his segment. Well, no, probably about 30 minutes of his segment. Problem was the first about 10 minutes I was there, I was getting interrupted, so I couldn't just sit and listen to him the whole time. But I mean, he was talking about his experiences specifically in southern Utah.
Oh yeah,
because like his first journey out there in southern Utah is he just pulled into town, parked his car, and walked into the mountains.
Oh yeah,
and just left for 6 months.
Really?
And he's been doing that on and off in like different periods of time. But he did it for 6 months. He's like, wow, and he's like, I'm going to do that again in a few months. So this fall, he's going to go in the fall equinox
in southern Utah again, or
and then come out in the spring equinox. Last time he went out in the spring and came out, or no, he went out in the summer and came out in the winter solstice. So he's going to do the equinox to equinox, so 6 months. And he's just like, it is wholly important for us to regain ourselves by going out into the wild.
And he's by himself?
And he goes by himself and just lives. And just completely one with nature and the world, in the world, not the world, the society that we know, right? But just the
real
wild.
World.
And he was talking about all the different tools that he uses and the knives that he carries, and really, he's got like an 8-pound pack.
Oh, really?
That's it. Like, he's got this bedroll that he uses that's amazing, and I'm going to have to go back to the videos. Some people
I need to know about that, because that's the one I constantly struggle with. I think I found a solution for myself this year, which I'll talk about. But
he's got this comforter that is like this micro comforter, but it's like big enough for 2 people to sleep under. And he's like, I'm warm in this. I'm toasty. He's like, sometimes I'm too warm, so I pull a leg out, But he talked about that. He talked about his different knife he uses for batoning and his different knife he uses as a tool for
more of the
cutting.
fine work.
He's got 3 different knives that he carries when he goes out. Mm-hmm. He's like, that way I don't have to make a knife while I'm out there because that's very time consuming. But everything he does, he tries to do with the sustainability purpose. Is like, okay, if I'm going to use a resource, I want to make sure it's not something I'm going to damage for the future, but something that is going to be able to help me for as long as I'm here, as well as I can come back to later if I want to, or I can take it apart and it'll look like I've never been there. So it was really cool. I mean, he talked about the use of a bow and arrow versus a
sling or
an
atlatl.
Atlatl. Thank you. I was going to say an at, but that's Star Wars.
A bow versus an atlatl, right?
An atlatl, okay. And he's like, I've moved to the atlatl because it is so.
He has moved with him.
Oh, he's left the bow and arrow for the most part. The atlatl allows him to really, number one, power behind it is a lot greater. Mm-hmm. He can move walking forward with it, whereas a bow, you're turning it sideways when you're walking with it if it's preloaded.
Right, yeah.
He's like, so I can be walking forward, and if there's something that's up in front of me, I can actually just sling it out there. He's like, I don't have to do a full throw. I can do an
and I can imagine
throw to get
that your action time is going to be a little bit quicker because a bow, you're not going to walk with that bow loaded. You're not going to pull it back and walk around like that. No, he says you do. But you do with the atlatl. I mean, the atlatl's ready.
The atlatl is ready, but the bow, you walk around preloaded when you're hunting with a bow.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, you've got all that time to turn, to draw, to acquire and fire, right? Whereas if it's preloaded, you're just turning, acquiring, and firing.
And I assume that's why he maybe likes the atlatl, because he's got it up over his shoulder. It's ready to go without having to...
Or it's below his knees when he's walking, depending.
Okay.
Like if he's stalking, it's down low, and he's like, I can just throw it just as easily upside down as I can right side up. But he's like, if it's a big thing, I just pop it up and go. Mm-hmm. He's like, and it doesn't take much to aim. He's like, because you're holding it for so long, your follow through is more important aiming than your initial let go. So, and then he showed on stage how he does it. And so I was just like, because you know me, I've been trying to get him there for the last 3 years. Because he in Utah, it's him and David Holliday are like my two, like, wow, like they are the wisdom holders of wilderness survival. And then I'd put Tyler White up there, and then Dan Whiting. You know, those guys are getting there as well. I mean, just phenomenal people. Tyler didn't make it out. That was a bummer.
Yeah, he's out of the country, I believe.
Yeah, I didn't see Dan.
No, Dan did not make it up either. But I was out with him.
I saw you guys going
morel
hunting.
Morel
hunting.
Mushroom
you don't eat those, huh?
I don't eat fungus.
Really?
I've never liked mushrooms.
You eat cheese?
I do.
Then you eat fungus because there's fungus in cheese.
Maybe in it, but it's not primarily fungus. Anyway.
I'll argue all day long.
Okay, I don't like mushrooms. I never have liked mushrooms. I pick them off everything.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, so Dan and I, we got to go out, and he was teaching me a lot of things that Buna. Buna had her booth there as usual, Garden Inspired. She's fantastic. We've had her on the show.
I finally got to go to her
plants.
classes. Yeah, I got to go to a couple classes. It was really great.
Yeah.
Whereas years past, I never got to the classes.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, it was underattended. I don't think they marketed it quite enough. I mean, you guys heard it here on K-Talk. We had a lot of K-Talkers show up. So thank you for supporting it. But really, you're supporting yourself by going to these events. Whether it's PrepperCon or anything else, I think you owe it to yourself to go to them just because you may find something new you're not doing or something that you can do better. From a knowledge standpoint, you always need to go.
Knowledge and inspiration is the main reason I go. And you get some cool things, too. So, yeah, you were going the way of... Okay, so was Matt Graham your favorite...
My favorite experience of the whole event was getting to meet him and listen to him talk. Because as I've built out PrepperCon in the years past, I never got to experience anything. And so for me, the best parts in the years past was seeing, the tens of thousands of people. I mean, we had 12,000, 13,000, depending on the year, coming out, and it was amazing, right?
Yeah, it was.
And I get to have those conversations as people are leaving. I'm like, tell me what was the best thing that you experienced. Oh, man, I felt inspired to get this, or I didn't know we needed this, or I didn't know that there was a better way to do this than that, and so now I feel more prepared because of XYZ. Those conversations were awesome. I didn't really have those this year because I was trying to have those experiences myself.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's cool. So what was your favorite booth? Your favorite vendor, exhibitor? What would you say?
Ooh. Boyd Craven was pretty awesome. He's a fun author, but he does tons of research for every one of his books. And a lot of that's like guys like Eric Betcher and us. Actually, apparently I'm in one of his books. I got to read the next book, so I'm an investigator.
Of Eric's? One of Eric's books?
No, in one of Boyd's books.
Boyd's books. Oh, okay.
So I'm like, ooh, Hey,
he wrote you in there. I'm jealous.
I got snuck into a book. I'm famous.
Nice.
It's not my name, but it's based on me and my skill set apparently.
Cool. And
it's kind of funny that I'm famous enough to be in that. I don't know, but I would say Infamous, yeah, I'm definitely more infamous. As always, 3V Gear. I love their backpacks. I mean, I've got one of them right here. That's awesome. I would say Sly Steel, getting to see and handle their knives, because I have never been able to do that.
That was fun discussion.
I'm actually really impressed. I always thought, they're too big and clunky. And now that I've handled one and used
it, I'm
like,
shark tooth. It's so unconventional looking that.
That's still not for me. But
the bushcraft.
That bushcraft knife is definitely my.
Let's call it skeletal something or other bushcraft. But yeah,
that's a nice knife. Got to get one of those.
So I think for me, my favorite booth by far was the K-Talk booth.
Really?
And I'm being completely sincere and honest. I mean, we spent a lot of time there, and we had a lot of people coming up to us and talking to us there, and it was, I absolutely. I think it was my favorite booth. There's a lot of other great ones. But
they had the spin the wheel for prizes, and they had the photo op with the Walking Dead.
It was a free candy. That's
free candy. That's what it was. The celebrities there, you and I, were a lot of fun. People. It was funny because people tried to talk to you while you're on the air. And
we're like,
I can't talk to you. I'm on the air. There's a sign flashing. That was fun. I'm like focused more on like the gear and the knowledge. Like I love seeing things like, it sounds kind of dumb, but like Valley Food Storage, they're giving away free food all day long. And all these kids are lined up there all day long. I'm just like, that was me as a kid. I'm like, yeah, buddy, go get some food, and it's good. Or like, oh man, there were so many good things. Eric Betcher, I keep messing up his last name. Yeah. Eric Betcher had his own booth, and he had his books. And his survival guides are really good. They're regionally specific.
Yeah,
which is
I picked up his nude cookbook. So
nice.
And I know he's coming out with another one.
Nude.
New cookbook. His new cookbook.
Sounds like nude
slow down a little bit
for a second.
And
I'm like,
properly.
That gets awkward fast. Welcome to the wild.
I do not cook in the nude. I never have, and I probably never will, unless I'm forced to.
Definitely dangerous, I would think. But then, there was also the axe throwing was fun. Not practical for survival in any way, shape, or form.
No,
but it was fun.
You don't typically want to throw your tools.
Definitely not.
You want to keep them in your hand, especially your axe. Especially if you got a nice axe.
Like, maybe your tomahawk.
Yeah, if it's a weapon.
But that's different, right?
Yeah.
That's if the guy's getting away from you now. Otherwise it's hand-to-hand combat. But that was fun. But I really appreciated the Urban Survivors booth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Stan is always fantastic.
They did the room clearing training, and they did the hand-to-hand combatives, and then they did the knife fighting tournament, which is cool. So there was some really cool stuff. And then Eco Holdings, they had the solar panels that could adhere to your roof, directly to your roof. That was cool.
I've never seen that before.
So they're the only ones that are doing it.
No framework, no mounting systems. They basically have an adhesive on the back, and it sticks right to your shingles.
Yeah, and it's this waterproof, so you don't drill holes in your roof. You're not having to re-waterproof your roof when you're done putting that on, and it'll take 170 mile an hour winds. Brilliant.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And then they're light bulbs.
Yeah, I've already put mine in.
Have you?
Yeah.
I didn't go back in time to get some. I totally got sidetracked with everything else and wandered off, and I'm like pulling into my driveway Saturday night, and I go,
I forgot to get some lip.
I didn't grab lights.
It's okay. We know how to get hold of them.
I know how to get hold of them. Yeah.
So one of my main objectives of going at PrepperCon is, and one of my themes has been lately, is to simplify and minimize. So I went with that mindset of, okay, how can I simplify and minimize my go bag, my this plan, that plan. And I came up with some pretty good, cool things. So one item in particular that I'd looked at the past year or two that they were there is Land Shark. And I thought, that's kind of odd. Why is it called Land Shark? What is this? And so last year I didn't get one, but this year, I'm looking for items that fulfill multiple purposes. Right?
So explain what Land Shark is for our listeners.
Well, what Land Shark is, it's a shelter. What it is, it's a bag. So it's kind of like the Mylar bags we carry around, the Mylar,
the dry bags.
Well, it is a dry bag, but it's more like essentially it's a bag. It's a large bag. It's a shelter, but it's also it's orange on one side. It's bivy. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. It's orange on one side for a safety indicator or an emergency indicator, and the other side is camouflage. But one thing that really fulfilled for me is I've been looking for some way to hide my body heat, right? Like if someone's looking for you with FLIR, right, they're going to find you regardless, but not with this bag. It'll hide your heat signature. So it fulfills several different needs for a shelter, keeping your body heat, keeping you dry. It can be a ground tarp just to sit on, but also will hide your thermal signature from FLIR and other infrared. So whatever situation you might find yourself in, you need to hide from that. That fulfills another purpose. So I went ahead and got myself one of those this year.
Oh, nice.
So
how much do they weigh?
I don't know off the top of my head. They're not very light, but the other thing I liked about it is it was a pretty thick fabric.
Yeah.
It's not going to get easily torn. Kind of like those other bivvies we have, those little frog, whatever bivvies.
Yeah.
Those are very thin, and I'm a little
survival frog.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about tearing those.
So I used one of those in the survival challenge, the Ready Man challenge. I actually melted it.
Oh, with your stove?
Yeah, I was playing around. I got stupid, but I was trying to test its limits. And so the thing I loved about it is I was warm until I got too warm and I started sweating, and then it kept the moisture in there, kept the heat going in there, and I was like, oh, that's not good. So I had all this moisture. All of a sudden, the bag kind of dropped and hit my back, and my back got cold. And so then I'm like,
yeah, that is a problem with fabrics that aren't breathable, right?
Yeah.
They're going to collect your moisture. And there's nothing you can do about that. But what's nice about this bag, I can also use it for water collection.
Yep.
So it's just multi-purpose, and that way you save on the weight, what you're going to carry around, and a single item serves multiple purposes. So that was one of the things I was happy to buy this year.
Nice. Well, I think all in all, I mean, from a product standpoint, from a gear standpoint, I guess that's the same product and gear standpoint, but also from a educational standpoint, I think there's a lot of really good things that were going on there. Man, we're going right into skipping our breaks here. So you guys are going to have to put up with us all hour because we don't know what the heck's going on. We have no real cues for our commercials, so we apologize in advance. Unless you really love listening to us, then you're welcome.
So hopefully we don't banter too much. So another thing I picked up that has been at every previous PrepperCon is a multiple use item is the hybrid light. So a flashlight, it's a solar panel, but it's also you can also use it to charge your electronic devices.
Yep.
So instead of having
it holds its charge for 7 years,
for up to 7 years, because it's a lithium iron battery, and so
that's why I love those products.
So you can put it in your bag; it'll stay charged. You don't have to worry about it. So again, it keeps me from having to carry extra batteries, and it's tough, it's durable, and again, multi-purpose. Because I mean, still, even if I'm bugging out, I'm going to need some power. I can charge that. I can charge a phone with it.
You can charge your ham radio.
I can charge. That's true. I could charge my ham radio.
Your portable one, not your home mount.
Right.
That needs a little more power.
Hybrid light. Check them out. Highly recommend them. I've got them scattered all over my house.
Awesome
for my kids to use.
I've probably got 12 of those.
Oh, really?
And there's only 3 of us in our household. We've got the puck lanterns, we've got the flashlights, and I've got both yellow and black ones. I try not to use the black ones because I lose them. The yellow ones are easy to find. They're that bright yellow. And then I've got the new audio pucks. And those are awesome.
Yeah, I love the pucks.
Because I can Bluetooth those to my phone.
Oh, the audio puck. Okay.
The audio puck. So it's an audio puck with a lantern on the other side.
With a solar panel.
And a solar panel. So on one side it's got the solar panel, on the other side it's got the lights, and in the middle it's got the speaker. So it's like I can party all day long and turn on the lights and read all night long.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty sweet.
Now, another thing that I found that I was completely unaware of, that I pointed out to you, Scott, is this hand crank sewing machine.
And it's a fantastic little thing because you're just moving your hand in a small circle. I mean, it doesn't require a lot of energy. It doesn't require a lot of manpower, but it doesn't require any electricity.
Yeah, sometimes you got to get in the mindset. You got to get in the right way of thinking. Okay, when the power goes down, when the grid's out, how am I going to perform certain chores? And I think sewing is one of those things that I think passes. We don't think about. When you can't get to the store, you can't repair certain things. Maybe you can do it by hand. You got your hand sewing kit, but that's obviously time consuming when it comes to larger projects.
Well, and the other thing is how many of us still know how to sew with a sewing machine?
I do.
Well, you and I both do. My wife doesn't. How many people don't know how to sew with a sewing machine because we're so used to just buying what we need in the size we need.
It wears out, we just throw it away and buy something new instead of fixing,
mending,
and
replacing. And so it's an interesting thing to use a sewing machine, but it's very empowering because you can fix so many things and repurpose so many things, like turn a blown out pair of pants into a backpack. I mean, that's really easy to do with a sewing machine. Without it, that's going to take a lot of time.
It was one of my first jobs was working in a sewing shop.
Really?
Yep.
I never knew.
I got to sew canvas as well as trampolines and draperies and all that kind of stuff. So
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
That's
that for
quite impressive.
A couple of years.
So my last big sewing thing is I actually made mock kilts for my entire team of 12.
When did you do that?
That was when I was living in California. I was
okay.
Director of admissions for a school out there, and we had a company-wide costume thing going on, and every team had to dress the same. And I thought it was just the same theme-wise, and everybody chose Braveheart for our theme. So we had blue painted faces. I mean, we were
kilts and everything.
Good plaid. And another team came in, and every single one of them wore an orange jumpsuit and the same prison number. And so they were they won because it was exactly the same across the board. I thought it was
theme-wise.
Theme. I was, dang it.
Well, another couple of things that I purchased while I was there is I'm always looking of I'm of the mindset that I need to have it before I actually need it. So it's not like, okay, I need this, I'm going to have to run out and get it. So in an SHTF or an emergency, you may not have that option of going out and be able to get something. So when you're working on a project around the house, I got to go to Home Depot and grab this. And you come back home and you end up going 5 times a day, right? So I try and avoid that and have it before I need it. So one thing, actually 2 things I bought this time around was the aluminum weld.
Oh, yeah.
So that I can weld aluminum with just a propane torch or a butane torch.
Nice.
And I've seen that before, and I just knew if he was there this year, I was going to get some, so I got some. And then that Stronghold haywire clamper. That's one cool little tool. I mean, it's a very simple tool. It comes with this very strong, extra strong wire, so you can actually twist this wire. It's a little device to twist wire, tied around whatever you want to bind together, and it's extremely strong and very easy, quick to use, and you can fix something in a pinch.
You can fix something in a pinch, join 2 different wires. You can even make barbs with it. You can make barbed wire with it.
Yeah, and he had mentioned that you can build. There was one customer that built an entire greenhouse out of it. So used basically conduit and used this to bind the conduit together at the joints, and lots of uses.
Great tool.
Yeah,
great tool.
So like I say, I always believe in having it before I need it. So those were the 2 things I bought this time around that fit that need for me. We want to jump into another topic, or we want to keep going here? I mean, we could keep going. Well, there's fifth ops. There's fifth ops we should talk about.
Yeah, I want to talk about fifth ops. I thought that was fantastic. So it's a perimeter alarm is where he kind of started his entire business, and it's an aircraft
grade
aluminum. But you basically take these shotgun shell blanks, and he's also got pepper spray shotgun shell blanks,
either a blank or the primer.
Yeah,
so there's a couple.
So it's a primer, but basically it's 172 decibel blank, and then he's got the pepper spray, and he's also got some. He's
little lockpick kits.
But he's also got one he's working on right now, which is kind of like a Claymore.
It's
really?
A flashbang. Okay. I didn't see that one.
Well, it's not out yet. So I was asking what else is coming, and he's telling me all these different cool things, and so I'm really excited. I'm going to share you guys as soon as his social media is up and running. I'm going to show all that on our pages so you guys can see where to follow it and how to get this stuff. But we're going to be doing a video soon because I got a kit.
Cool. Yeah, I got some too.
Play. Yeah, want to test it out and it's great for when you're camping. It was designed to keep bears away. They trip the wire, boom, they're like, oh, what the crap, and run off, right? Yeah. Scamper off. But it also keeps away the tweakers.
That's what packaging
says. That's the packaging says.
Meant for bears, but works on tweakers.
This is such a cool thing. So had I lived in Katrina, when that happened, if I had been down there when that happened and I was staying home, if I had to go out and venture out and do stuff, I could secure my home with these, because a shotgun blast is pretty much enough to get someone to say, I'm not walking through that door anymore.
Yeah.
I'm turning around. And so having those types of tools that don't need power, that don't need anything else, I think everybody needs these.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely on the track I was getting with that sewing machine. Is that let's look for solutions that don't require electricity or internet based, anything like that. And and I guess while I mentioned that internet based, there were a couple of cool apps there while we have the internet, while we have power, might as well take advantage of these things, like Near Threat, which I thought was pretty darn cool.
Yeah, letting you know what's going on around you when it's going on.
Mm-hmm. It's basically an app that lets you pick the areas where you would like alerts, and it alerts you to threats that are nearby, like a fire or a particular weather event or earthquake or whatever it might be. Pretty cool app.
And that's right now, right? In the future, they're saying that they're going to have it so that it can geo-target you, so wherever you are, if something happens, you'll be like, oh, there's an active shooter going on nearby.
Yeah, and that's not
which has pros and cons.
Yep, exactly.
I don't want people to know that much where I am. But there's some other features that are going to come out with that I think is kind of really clever. And then there was Bunker Days, which is kind of your own social platform.
And we met these guys last year. They were out walking around, passing around their card. But yeah, basically a social media platform for preppers, for connecting with other like-minded individuals.
Yeah, it's more like forums. Right.
Okay.
Because it's broken down by you can go into different areas and speak by topic, which I like because then you're not just being trolled by people when you ask a certain question. Like if you go onto the big one that everyone talks about where the thumbs up, right? If you go on that one, there's a lot of times people are just like trolling you because you'll ask a basic question. Where in this I like because if you're a beginner, you can go to the beginner areas and get those questions and people aren't going to be trolling you because they're also there for the beginner information. And they've got better moderators and stuff like that. And so I like that concept. I like the delivery. I still need to play around a little bit in there, but I did create my account.
Oh, did okay.
So it's very clean. It's very simple.
Very cool. Another item that I want to put around my house are the quick safes.
Yeah.
They basically look like a vent, but they're actually a safe. So they're a covert location. It's not really a safe, I guess you could say. It's called quick safe, but it's not. You don't have to dial a combination, open the vault door type safe. But it's a done by
like a hidden panel, hidden
RFID
panel.
chips and such.
Yep.
And so a hidden location. And that's where I prefer to put my valuables and whatever I want to conceal. It's better to hide them rather than put them in an obvious target of a safe. So I think that's a really cool idea. What else, Scott, stood out to you? Well, I know, and a lot of the same vendors over the years.
Yeah.
Right? Well, there was
I was about to say the Polymule.
Yeah.
Polymule I thought was really cool because it's a different take. I mean, for those of you in Utah that are familiar with the Mormon Pioneers and their hand carts coming out to Utah, big, huge hand carts, right? Wheels the size of a medium adult.
44 inch.
44 inch height.
Huge, big.
You must be this tall to ride the rides now. So, those were huge. Took a lot of time to build them all and everything else. This is a 3D printed plastic polymer that's basically... It's the same stuff they use on docks so that the big giant tankers don't rip through the dock, right? So it's very strong. It's a type of PV, and then the cool thing is it collapses, it folds down, but you can use it as a rooftop rack for your car, so you can throw stuff in it.
Again, multi-purpose.
Multi-purpose.
You can use it a lot of different, and it can always be if you mount it on the roof of your car. You'll always have it with you if you get stranded. You've got something to load your stuff in because we all know we don't advocate bugging out unless you have somewhere to bug out to. You've got a firm plan, but you can never carry enough stuff with you on your back. Depending on how far you have to go.
And the other one is like if it's a natural disaster and there's an evacuation required, you're going to get to a point where you may have to hand cart it out. Right? I love it. I think it's great. I really want to go test them a little more.
And for
but that's
price,
on my
no-brainer.
The guys that were selling hand carts the years before, it was like $1,000, $1,500, one was $3,000.
Yeah.
And this is $600. Yeah. And they were on sale. I won't tell you the price because it was amazing.
It's over now.
But they're $600.
Yeah, I think under 600. Yeah,
that's a great price for a product like that.
Extremely durable. You're never going to break this thing. It's
no.
So keep those things in mind. Okay, I need to get from point A to point B. How am I going to achieve that?
Yeah.
Whether if you've got your vehicle, if you can achieve it with that, or if you've got a trailer behind your bike or whatever it might be. But and I keep a little dolly in the back of my car.
Oh, you
just
do?
A little collapsible
okay.
one I got at Home Depot, so that if I get broken down somewhere, or there's some kind of SHTF event, I can take a few extra things from my vehicle that I carry with me purposefully, and
wander on home
and take them wander on home with them. I wouldn't want to leave them there, but I can't carry everything that I have in my car. It's just not possible.
No, it isn't.
So Polymule, very cool. Check them out. Let's see. One thing I always like the UV pack light.
Mm-hmm.
It's a ultraviolet. It's the glow in the dark stuff, right? And they've made
recharges based on the sun every day,
based on the light you shine on it, and just a cool little. I don't want to call it a toy, but it's a nice little tool. They're very light, so I always have one in every one of my bags.
It's like having glow sticks.
Exactly, it's a glow stick is what it is. It's probably not as bright, but it will never. You can always recharge it. It will always recharge. It's never going to wear out.
Yep.
So I like spending my money on those types of things that I know that are always going to work.
Well, I like the Faraday bags that Cache Valley Prepper had.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've got the Faraday inserts, and those are great, but you kind of need to bundle them up. This one is more of a stronger, and it's an RF blocker too.
More of a Faraday, not an EMP bag.
So this one is actually designed to block RFID and EMP. Okay. So a regular Faraday bag, which is designed to block an EMP, doesn't always block anything RFID. Doesn't block, cell signal doesn't block,
right.
And so this is actually cooler because you can block everything. So I'm like, my problem is because I'm in the middle of a startup of a new business. I'm like, I want to spend, but I don't. I can't. I shouldn't. I better not. And so I'm like, if you're like me, pay attention to the PrepperCon website because the list of vendors are going to be up there for quite a while. Go there, look at them all, find them on Google. Do what you need to do, but get them. Like Fifth Ops, it's FITHOPS, right? Fifthops.com, as in fire in the hole. Polymule. POLYMULE.
Yep.
Right. So you've got go to the website, go to preppercon.com. You can go see the vendor page and find them all that way. Because if we just try to keep telling, we're going to talk about a lot of different products, but if we keep telling you about them all, you're going to forget what we talked about, what it is. Just go look at it.
And the hand crank sewing machine was Bantam Saddle Tack. And I think they're in Idaho as well.
Yeah. So and then Sly Steel was from Idaho. There's a lot of cool things coming out of Idaho. Tops Knives is up there. But then there's also a lot of cool things, like Bunker Days is coming out of Florida. Yep. Right. Well, they deal with hurricanes all the time. Near Threats out of Canada. So there's stuff coming from all over the place. It's actually really, really good quality stuff. It's like a lot of people think, I can only get American stuff. Well, Canada's pretty dang cool too, right? And sometimes for the affordability, you've got to ship it from outside the U.S. But always make sure you're being aware of what it's made out of and the longevity you're going to get out of the product that you're buying, because you can buy junk. It's easy to be, misguided.
I would rather spend a little bit more and get a quality product that I know I won't have to replace for at least for a long time, than to get something that I know is it's going to last me a couple of years, but I'm going to spend a quarter or a half is what I would have otherwise.
Yeah,
I'd rather have something that I can depend on, and I can count on. So I think I'm done talking about PrepperCon.
Well, and I think just to kind of wrap it up. They had the typical. They had the guns. They had the knives. They had some off-grid stuff. They had the solar power, the backup generators. They had Plan B trucks, and they actually had twice as many as usual. They had laser tag, for the kiddos, which was kind of cool to watch. And then they had all the food, all the cooking systems.
Valley Food in particular.
They had Insta Privy, which I think is kind of funny. It's a pop-up toilet bathroom thing, but you got to kind of squat in it. It's kind of short. But then they had all these other different things too. So there really is something for everybody. They had first aid there. They had Shield Safety. They had TNT first aid. They had, AMP 3, which is also they also have ham radio. But then they had classes for suturing, stitching.
I'm glad you brought up the Shield Safety. Gavin has some amazing products that are his own products.
Yeah,
the burn gel, that wrap for for sprained ankles or whatever.
I think that was my favorite product.
Those are amazing products. They truly are. You need to go check out shield-safety.com. He has some truly awesome products, and I'm not just saying that, but they're amazing.
Yeah. Well, okay, so now that we're going to segue off of PrepperCon, the reasons, or as we like to call them, the excuses. Right? The excuses why you don't prep. Now,
that's really what they are. They're just excuses. They're not really reasons. They're more excuses. There may be valid reasons. You may have a valid reason for not prepping. I acknowledge
most of the time,
that.
That's an excuse.
But most of the time, it is going to be an excuse because you have a weak mind.
Now,
I have a weak mind.
Here's the thing. So, and feel free to call in and tell us what you think on these excuses as well, and maybe some that you have at 801-254-1640. And to give a little credit to where we are, you're listening to K-Talk Radio. It's the only two-way talk radio that is dedicated to the ready-minded.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Right? You guys, this is awesome because listeners here, you guys pay attention to the issues of what's going on, right? Our show doesn't get into the politics, but you guys pay attention to what's going on in the world, and you're also taking precautions to be self-reliant, which is more important than prepping, because self-reliant is anti-fragility, right? Prepping is a component of self-reliance. It's just a cool buzzword. We're self-reliant as far as we can possibly be at the current time in our lives as we can be. But a lot of people are thinking, and you've heard the argument, well, if something happens, the government's going to come in and rescue us. Well, to that I say, shame on you. Because if the government's preparing for it, shouldn't you be also? Because as soon as you give your chance of survival to someone else, like the government or anybody else. As soon as you give your opportunity or your chance for survival to someone else, you're giving away your liberty, your freedom to choose, your freedom to make a decision on what you're going to do, where you're going to go, how you're going to do things, because now you have to rely solely on someone else.
Well, we've all been brainwashed to think safety first, right? Which, okay, yes, safety is probably first. But if we think safety first, we are probably putting our safety into someone else's hands.
Our security into someone else's hand.
Right. We don't want to think about it because it's not easy to think about. I mean, we're all thinking about, okay, we want to get home at the end of the day in one piece, right? That's kind of our goal. But when we let others dictate to us, okay, we're interested in your safety first. That's what we're interested in, right? How about you saying, okay, you know what? I'm interested in my safety first, and you can tag along because you're in good hands.
What's the airplane, right? You go on the airplane,
exactly.
And the attendants tell you put your mask on first, and then attend to someone else.
And they also say, you know what? Your safety is our priority. We're going to get you home nice and safe. So They don't always say that, but they say that. But what about them saying, and this is what I heard Micro say today, and he's brilliant. Micro, brilliant. Basically said, well, I would like to hear the pilots say, you know what, we're here to look out for you guys, but at the end of the day, I want to get home. I love my kids. I love my family. I'm going to get myself home in one piece, and so be assured that you're going to be in good hands.
That makes more sense.
Yeah. Than saying, I'm here to look out for your safety. Now, that's just the wrong way to approach it, because then you get to the point where, okay, I'm going to walk across the street, and I'm waiting for the sign to change to the little walking man, and then I know I'm safe without looking both ways. But you have to look both ways still, and you get that complacency if you put your safety into someone else's hands.
I think that's probably the best analogy of our safety. The crosswalk. The little hand, don't walk. The little guy walking, right? Or it could be a gal. I'm equal opportunity here. It could be a female's hand. I don't know. Our moms are safer than our dads in most times, right? Because dad's usually like, hey, watch this. Don't tell mom. But that analogy, I mean, are we really that naive to not look both ways?
Yeah, even though the sign says you can walk.
Yeah.
Even though the lights changed, and okay, it is my time to walk, and so everybody else should be watching out for me because I'm in the right and they're in the wrong if I get hit. But that's beside the point.
It's funny because there have been times where I'm parked at the light waiting for the light to change. It changes, and I don't leave right away, and the people behind me are honking.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, well, I'm not going because this guy's coming through still.
You're looking
and
left,
then they see that
right.
car go through, and they're like, oh yeah, we would have all been hit.
This guy ran the light. And yeah, absolutely. I do the same thing. I'll sit at the light, give it a few seconds, look both ways. Okay, I'm safe to proceed. Even though the light has told me, green light, you can go. Somebody hits you, they're in the wrong, and so, but I still don't want to get injured.
I don't care if they're in the wrong.
Family exactly.
I care if we're hurt or not, right?
So I guess what we're trying to get around to here is that, safety, that we are responsible for ourselves. And we should have that mindset of being responsible for ourselves, and that safety is in our own hands.
Well, and focus on an anti-fragile life, right?
Which the true meaning of anti-fragile is not just being robust or durable, but being
resilient
in the times, in the chaos times, in the chaotic times.
Well, and life at any given time can be chaotic.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
You lose a loved one, and all of a sudden your life goes a little chaotic because now you may have their kids to take care of, or you may have their funeral arrangements to take care of, or whatever their responsibilities may have fallen to you, right? Can you withstand that, right? Or what if you get injured and you can't go to work anymore, and now you're completely changing your lifestyle? Well, if you haven't been practicing anti-fragility, your mindset could be completely crap, and now you're going to be depressed the rest of your life.
Yeah, so that's one thing Scott and I mention all the time, was it really introduced to us by Cache Valley Prepper, and it is actually getting a bigger buzzword on the prepper forums out there in the prepping world. Is this anti-fragility. So I'd encourage you all to type that into your browser.
Yep.
And do a little bit of studying on what is anti-fragility, what does it mean to be anti-fragile, and then aim toward that in all your preps. Yeah,
and that really actually helps you to become more of a minimalist.
It does. No, that's a great point.
We've got this we've got this big house that when we're done renovating it, it'll be nice.
It'll eventually be nice.
Eventually, 20 years from now. But I it's funny because I long for simplicity every day.
Yeah.
And my wife's getting that way too. And I'm like, yeah, we don't need this. We bought it because it was a screaming deal, not because we needed all the space. But we actually share that space so that, we rent out the basement and we do some other things. And so
it makes sense.
We don't use it all, but somebody else is able to use it, and take advantage of that opportunity and save some money at the same time. So it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, we're doing something good. But, we jokingly talk about like our next house will be much smaller, and simpler. Mm-hmm. It'll be more focused on family space and learning space as opposed to anything else. Mm-hmm. And when you really get down to what's important in your life, it really changes what you buy, what you store, what you keep, and what you practice. And so the excuses that you have start flying out the window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the excuse to not get in shape. When you're fat and out of shape like I've been, I've used an excuse that I'm too busy. And now my life is in the danger zone because I've used an excuse. Well, now I'm working every morning to try to improve that. I'm working every day to try to eat healthier. I'm working every day to try to get a little exercise in. I'm not doing anything insane like CrossFit or P90X and all those other things.
It's not necessary.
Right? Because I kind of believe that there's only so many beats your heart's got in it before it craps out. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to improve my health without wrecking anything. Improve my ability to overcome, adapt, and respond. And that's my responsibility. That's part of being anti-fragile that I've kind of neglected. And so for those of you who've watched the show and seen the live feeds and seen that I'm overweight, yeah, that's my own fault. I take full responsibility for that. And I take full responsibility for my excuses in the past. And so the same goes for your preparedness. You're responsible for that.
And I think as long as you're aware of your excuses, kind of like I mentioned earlier in the program, this friend brought up to me, an excuse is a sign of a weak mind. So every time, this still echoes in my head, saying thank you, Mark, for your comment years ago. It echoes in my head whenever I think about, okay, what's my excuse for not getting this done, or what's my excuse for not doing this right, or whatever it might be. That echoes in my head and say, okay, think about that. So here we're going to go through our list of excuses or reasons why people don't prep. So I'm going to give my number one here. I think the number one is, and maybe I'm wrong here, but just denial.
Okay, yes.
Just plain denial. And some of these are kind of duplicates, but they're maybe a little more intricate, looking at a little more facet here, looking at different excuses or reasons why. But essentially denial and thinking it can't happen to me. Now, obviously, when we're young, right, you and I, we're getting a little bit older. We're invincible, right? We're never going to get hurt.
We were invincible.
We were invincible.
Now we've learned otherwise.
I'm still unbreakable. If you've seen the show, I'm still unbreakable. That's me.
So stay out of water.
Even though I had my appendix taken out, that was my water. That was my weak point. It was my appendix. Now I'm unbreakable. I'm still, but you know what I'm saying is that we think it can't happen to us. We think life's going to continue on as normal because it always has.
Yep. But it doesn't.
It doesn't.
And their life experiences will teach us otherwise, right?
Even though those life experiences haven't been so dramatic and large changes as what maybe an SHTF event or a collapse will be. Like you look back to the financial collapse of 2008. I was a little oblivious at the time and didn't really understand what was going on. But, of course, looking back, hindsight's 20/20, and it really was quite a significant collapse. It did end up affecting me and my work eventually, but not all right at the beginning. And I didn't realize until later on, oh, yeah, that's why my business turned back downwards, right? So it can and it will happen to us. We just have to have our eyes open and being aware.
See, I lost a house because of that. I was over-leveraged, right? I'd made some dumb financial decisions and bought more than I could handle, right? And at that time, I always had my 72-hour kits. I always had, at that point is when I switched to 96. But that's what I always had, at least a 3-month supply of food and water. I was in prepping. I didn't know I was a prepper, right? Because no one was really saying prepping much. Yep. And shortly thereafter, there came Doomsday Preppers TV show, right? And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of me. But the interesting thing is the financial resources that I'd saved were very minimal. And I was not prepared.
Yeah, we were spenders,
right? And now I've gotten on the last year. I've been able to live off less money than ever in my history, other than college, minus the tuition fees. I've never gotten off. I've never lived on less than I have recently, and it's actually been fantastic because the things that we buy own us. And by not having them, not having as much of them. It's really a lot simpler.
And I guess for me to clarify a little bit that direction is that what wealth truly is tangible things, right? Like, well, of course, gold and silver, but also, real estate property that you own. Now, if that property is something that devalues, like a car, which that's the trap that I think most people get in, is I want a nice car. But that's why most people stay poor, because they put all their money into their cars instead of saving it, instead of spending a little on a used car and taking that and saving it and paying cash for the next car and so on and so forth. That is where a lot of people get into trouble. So there's an excuse.
Well, it's like watching coupons. Coupons came about to help people save money. And the idea was you take the money that you would have spent on that and you put it in the bank. That was how those came about.
That's saving. You put your finger air quotes up. What is saving? It's not not spending, not saving money on buying
that's
something.
That's how they were marketed.
Yeah, exactly.
Back when they first came out. Now they're marketed so you can get more. Oh, you're saving 30 cents. Now you can buy a second one. Oh, you're saving $1.50. You can buy 3.
Buy more.
They're like, oh, this coupon so you can buy more. And so now instead of saving money, you're actually tripling your spending or quadrupling your spending because you can get 5 or 6 times what you thought you could get.
Yeah, and that's kind of another item on my list is why people don't prep, is that normalcy bias. We've been brainwashed, and that's another note I have by both of these is it's a brainwash. We've been programmed. It's a propaganda. We've been given all these years to spend. It's the normalcy bias again that it's not going to happen to me. Life is going to continue on, and I want things to be normal.
Well, just by listening to the radio, but just by turning on the TV, you're being marketed to all the time, right? Just by opening the newspaper, you're being marketed to all the time.
Thanks for listening to K-Talk 1640 AM.
Yeah,
and our sponsors.
But you're being marketed to all the time, right? Someone has to pay for the delivery of that product. Well, even the news has shifted. The typical news has shifted from just giving you the news and selling space. Now they're selling you the news, right? You look at what CNN's doing versus what Fox is doing, versus what Huffington Post is doing. They're all selling their angle of the news. They're not giving you the news anymore. They're selling you their perspective. No, and so you have to weed through all the different voices to find out what's true. And so that normalcy bias cripples us from doing that. Right? And if we believe too much what we're being sold, we lose our normalcy bias, and it's their normalcy bias that we live off of. And then they have control. And
because we know they're controlled by corporations. They're controlled by those who would sell us stuff.
They're all agenda driven, and it doesn't mean it has to be like, oh, we're going to dominate the world. It's, oh, we're going to dominate this market, or oh, we're going to make $14 million this month off of people that are dumb enough to buy our product. Right? It could be a number of different things, but everyone has an agenda, and it's not necessarily the same agenda you have for yourself and you have for your family, which is the most important agenda and should be in your life. So
there's a reason right there I just thought of is the reason people don't prep, because they don't have an agenda. They don't have a plan. They don't see that far out enough in the future. Yeah, to have that purpose. Okay, what do I want to leave my kids with? What do I want to...
Nothing.
Exactly.
I want them to be left with the most amazing mind.
That's the normalcy bias now, is to not look so far in the future, not plan in the future for our kids, for those who go after us. We're just interested in ourselves, right? We're so wrapped up in our own commercialism, whatever you want to call it, buying stuff for ourselves, that we're not thinking out in the future. Well, but I see what you mean.
No, so what I mean is,
I know
whatever
I
have,
slightly different. Yeah,
I want it to be given away to charities.
Okay,
right when I'm gone, I want my kids to have already become self-sufficient. I don't want to leave them anything.
Much.
No, nothing.
Really.
I want to have given them whatever I wanted to give them during their life, and we could both appreciate it. I don't want them to be like, oh, Dad died, let's fight over what he has. Because I've seen that. I've seen that over and over in other families. And I'm like, when my parents pass away, it's funny because my siblings and our argument is, who's taking that? I don't want it. You take it. No, I don't want it. You take it. Because whoever takes it is the one that has to then liquidate it. And they've got great stuff. That's fine. But it's just stuff at the end of the day. And what's most important was the experiences. My dad taught me how to orientate my life orienteer. Right? My life is better because I know how to orienteer. My dad taught me how to build with my hands, how to envision something in my mind and then put it in paper and then take it from paper to actual production. Those are skills. Those are tangible skills. What skills are you leaving your kids? Right? That normalcy bias messes that up. It's not just knowledge of, hey, this is what this is. It's how does that become? how can I create? How can I develop things? And I think that's why you and I get along so well, because we both focus on what are the skills, what are the trades, what are the abilities that we have besides just being able to think and problem solve. Well, what can we build to make our life better? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the most important thing in what we leave the next generation is.
And the next item on my list, and I think kind of ties right into this, is the word fear. Mm-hmm. If you're relying on others and then they're not there anymore, there's definitely a big reason there to fear, like, okay, I don't know how to do things. But in your discussion there about giving them everything now, giving that knowledge now, it's going to eliminate a lot of that fear. But what I wanted to focus, I guess, on fear is when we have fear, that there's the three natural responses: fight, flight, or freeze, right? So we want that natural response to be to fight.
Yeah.
Not just to freeze, which I think is maybe what is happening. Personally, I don't understand it because I'm not that. I've already changed my mindset to where I'm not freezing. I'm not running away from the problem. I'm
You're addressing
it head on. I'm addressing it head on. Yeah.
Right.
So that is, I think where, and like I said, I don't understand people in this mindset. But I think maybe that's where a lot of people are. They see something terrible in the news and they don't know what to do about it, and they freeze, and then they don't do anything about it.
Yeah, that's pretty sad. And they allow that news snippet to dictate their choices, right?
Exactly.
When in reality, you take that news snippet and you actually do a little more digging and you find out what else is really going on, and if it really is safe or not safe. If it really does affect you or doesn't affect you. Taking a little extra initiative, I think, is what we're missing. I think the problem, though, is the hard thing is to try to take all of that in. It's so hard because there's so much information. It's no longer the hour, the daily news at 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night, right? It's now the 24-hour news cycle, and so all you're getting is everything from the last hour because everything's so connected digitally. When that shifts, when that changes, what are the excuses you're making that makes it okay to just sit there and be filling yourself from the fire hose, literally, right? That's all you're doing is you're absorbing all that. There's other things you could be doing that are going to add quality to your life. One of the biggest excuses I hear all the time is, well, what if I waste my time preparing and nothing happens? I'm like, wait, what?
Exactly. How does that question make any sense?
Skills. You've improved your life. Yeah. Like, are you kidding me?
Well, then you're still not in the right mindset because, you're thinking, I could have spent this money in this over here doing this, going on vacation, or I could spend it on this car, or I could have spent it on doing this or that, where you're really better served by having already, taken the same steps you took instead.
And social media kills that for people, right?
Exactly.
Like, because you look at social media and all you see is the silver lining of everybody else's life.
Exactly, peer pressure. That's another item on my list. And I think the last thing I want to talk about here before we run out of time is, and I think it's, it affects all of us, is life's overwhelming burdens. Oh, and I think that's more of a reason than excuse, but it's kind of there in between.
And it's kind of self-inflicted.
It is.
Right? Because there's certain things we have control over.
So it's an excuse at that point.
Right. And so what happens, though, is like we think, I need to do this. So we do it. And then we get locked into a contract, or we get locked into, we have to do it now because now we've got to. Right. Yeah. And in reality, we don't have to be obligated to a lot of the things we obligate ourselves to.
That's correct, yeah.
And so then all those overwhelming things that we're doing, your kids don't need to have soccer practice 3 times a week, ballet 3 times a week, piano 3 times a week, and then whatever else you're trying to plug them into, right? I've seen studies where they actually tell you that the more of those you get them involved in, the less ability they have to process everything else because they're overly saturated. And so to simplify...
They have no time to actually slow down and to think and to
get creative.
Yeah, exactly.
If they don't get the opportunity to be creative and use their imagination, they lose problem-solving skills later on.
Okay, we got a caller here. Let's take this real quick and see if we can fit you in here before the show is over. You're here live on Prepper Talk Radio. Did you have a comment or question for us?
Yeah. I wanted you to explain to me what kind of fear exactly you're talking about. There's all different kinds of fear.
Oh, fear in particular?
Well, there's so many. One of them is the fear of missing out, right? People fear that everybody else has got a better life, and so they chase after the perception, the rainbow of, I can have a better life, so I've got to do all these things, right? That's one of the fears.
Because of the type of life we live in right now. Sorry, go ahead, Elaine.
Yeah, I get you. Well, you know what we've forgotten in life?
Tell us.
I think that's complicated. It's simple.
Yep.
You turn that TV off.
Turn that gall darn TV off. And
my neighbor did that last week as an experiment with her kids, and she said that they fought less because the TV was off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There you go. See, that's called reality, right?
There you go.
Real reality, not TV.
Not reality TV. I want to live my life through somebody else's life vicariously by watching their experience on TV. Makes no sense to me at all.
That's a great point.
My mother used to always say, when we had a problem with something, my mother would go, well, I'd like to help you. Why don't you work it out and then come back and share it with me?
There you go.
And that forces you. That forces you to overcome that fear.
Yeah. She had 14 children, so she used to say sometimes, Lord, do I look like a bulletin board?
She didn't have time to deal with everybody's problems. You got to figure it out for yourself.
Yeah, man.
In a way, that was good because, sometimes you have to work it out on your own, and that's a good thing. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Appreciate your call.
Appreciate your call.
Yep. Bye.
As always. Bye.
Bye-bye. I love that. Pointing out what is the fear that we're really focusing on, right? I think oftentimes we're misplacing where our fear is and where it should be. Mm-hmm. I think our fear should be something that's motivating us to do something better with our time.
Absolutely.
And not something that's crippling us.
That's the fight aspect of the fight, flight, or freeze of fear.
Let it be a motivator. Let it help you do more and be more.
Yeah, absolutely. So in our last few seconds here, we're not sure when our music is going to cut on here, but I think we've got about 30 seconds left or so. Just wanted to, of course, encourage you to interact with us on Facebook. We love doing that. We're just Prepper Talk Radio or Prepared Guy on Facebook. PrepperTalkRadio.com. Of course, KTalkMedia.com. You can, just great place to if you're going to waste time, go to those. We got our blog. Hold on.
Go ahead. If you're going to spend time on social media, invest your time by tuning into K-Talk.
He's the marketing guy.
No, it's not marketing. It's like you can either get buried in like the funny cat videos, or you can actually get engaged.
I like the fail videos myself. People falling on their face.
Those are fun. Those are a lot of fun, especially the beach fails.
There you go.
The beach fails are my favorite because it usually involves like some fitness ball bouncing and landing headfirst into the sand, or on a friend. Those are the best. But spend less time doing that and more time focusing on learning and growing, becoming a better you.
All right, and there's the music. So thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next Friday at 2 p.m. as usual.
The entire Wasatch Front, bringing you live local two-way talk.
The following